Gallagher.
Gallagher. Another Charlie Gallagher. Another Charlie Gallagher. That's a famous name now. Is there another Charlie Gallagher? No. Rory Gallagher.
Rory Gallagher, isn't it? Yeah, I think.
Sorry.
This is baby Bumblies, Steve Maloney.
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 He was a legend in his own mind.
He'll be saying that when he's got, but it's nice and quiet on Monday when I don't turn up.
That was a very good one he was that then. You know, anytime there's an ego moment about it, it's a Maloney.
That's not me.
Please stay. And that was from
1966.
1966 from the Crying Shames. Yeah. Do you remember them? I wonder if you do. I just about remember them, but I was only a young lad then. 1966. Good year that. And they're with me tonight. That's originally the Bumblies, so they go under both names and the Crying Shames. And we've got them with us tonight. That's Dave Ferguson, Charlie Gallagher, and Steve Maloney. Welcome, guys.
Good evening.
Hi, Phil.
Hi. Hello. Good of you to come down. The Bumblies. They were back in. Were they early 60s then, I guess?
Well, yeah, the band started in '63 in Norris Green in Liverpool, and there were three of us at the time. We sort of used to import a drummer when we could find one. And it was myself, a fellow called Mike Parker, who unfortunately is no longer with us now, and George Robinson, who is now living in Wales. And George went on with Charlie to change the name of the band in '66, because I'd left by then.
Yeah, this is Dave Ferguson talking.
To the Crying Shames.
Right. The Bumblies, I think I can guess where that name came from, but just to remind people.
Can you?
Yeah.
Do you remember it?
Yeah, Michael Benting.
That's right, yeah. Well, what it was is we were all
You're
there.
older than you look, Phil.
Thank you.
We were all there. You know, Spike Milligan fans,
Yeah.
and the Goons and everything, you know. And of course Michael Benteen had this programme on BBC children's television with these little puppets, space puppets, called the Bumblies. And we thought, well, hang on, that's about the same length of word that the Beatles is, so that could be a good name for a band.
Yeah.
And that's how it came about, really.
Yeah.
And,
did you sound like the Bumblies though?
in the early days, very much so. Well, the first time we ever got to, we played in a place, I'm trying to think of the name of the church. It was on Queen's Drive in Liverpool, St Michael's or something.
Yeah.
St Andrews or something. I don't know. Anyway, anyway, we got in there, and we had one amplifier between the two guitarists. Mike Parker had a Vox amp, which was pretty posh in those days. And he had a posh guitar. He had a Hofner very thin, and I had this cheapo Futurama thing. And we had a drummer called John Hayton, who was planning to buy a set of drums, but in the meantime he borrowed them from the Boys Brigade, who were in the next room. So we get up there, we've got a snare drum and this huge bass drum, right, with the 44th BB on the front, right? And you remember in those days we used to wear those pointy shoes, the winkle
diggers,
right? So we kick off, we go, oh, this is rock and roll, you know, we're playing some Little Richard, no, Jenny, so we're all banging away. And John's kicking this bass drum, which is as big as him, you know. And all of a sudden you hear this poof, because the winkle pick has gone straight through the skin. And at that time we thought, we're legging it. So that was the last time we practiced there. But,
did the Boys Brigade know about it? No.
Well, the vicar knew.
The
vicar did know. So that was the start of the band, and then, I suppose 3 or 4 months later, this cool dude walked down the street of a place called Broadway in Norris Green.
Yeah.
And he had all the gear, you know. A bit like, what was that song with Mark Knopfler? Guitar George, you know, was all.
Oh, right, yeah.
Well, Guitar George was George Robinson, and he was a bit older than us. And he had, do you remember the round neck jackets?
You know,
beautifully cut, you know. And he had hair down to his knees. Oh boy, did he look the part.
Sounds like me.
And he knocked on the door and he said, "Oh, you got a band here?" I said, "Yeah, I've got a band." He said, "Oh, I want to join it." I said, "What do you play?" I said, "Bass." I said, "Oh, we need a bass. We need a bass. But you got to be good." So I can't remember the detail of the conversation, but the next thing he said was, "I've got a Fender Precision." Now, I don't know, for those people who don't know, I think in Liverpool at the time there were about 2 of them.
Yeah.
So I didn't care how he played. I said, "You're in." So that and George joined the band, and we used to practice at the Club More Conservative Club in Norris Green, which incidentally is under threat at the moment. There's a big campaign to try and save it from the VAT now. And that's when we kicked off.
Yeah, so that's how the Bumblies got started. And they moved on to become the Crying Shames.
Well, it took about 2 years. Well, I think I'm right in saying
I came in '64.
But wasn't there some issue? I think when they got the recording contract with Decca, they were worried that there was a copyright on the name the Bumblies by Michael Bentine.
All right, yeah.
And you take it from there, Charlie.
Well, you know, people say, you know, by being there it allows you to have forgotten, doesn't it? Because it puts you at the age that you're permitted to forget. I came in '64 after an audition at St Christopher's Church in Norris Green. I couldn't play. Still can't play now, really, but I couldn't play then. But I had a lovely set of Premier, and I think it was a bit like George's Fender. Everybody was that impressed with the drum kit that they gave me the job.
Well, yeah,
you know, so
much better to play Scott kit like that.
well, and I had a few years at it before I gave up, and I'm trying to start again now. But there is a story going about that the name Crying Shame came from a lady on the train when George and Joey, God rest his soul, Joey's one of the lead singers, Joey Nee from Norris Green. This lady was supposed to have said something about it was a crying shame looking at the pair of them on the train, and there is a story there, but I'm not sure if it's an origin or its truth.
Quite often this name comes about by casual comment, don't they?
That's true enough, yeah.
Did you play? Well, you were playing on the track, were you on the recording?
Yeah. I did all the Crying Shames numbers, as few as there are, with the exception of the A-side, September in the Rain, which was done by Charlie and Richie after the band had disbanded.
Well, let's have a listen to another track. You've got the B-side, is it, of the...
this was written by the bass player, George Robinson.
The guy you were talking about with the winkle pick.
And,
no, not with the winkle pick.
It's a pretty cool track.
It is.
I like this.
And what's this one called?
What's News, Pussycat?
Oh, right.
So we're actually at the point of changing the name full time now. So the appearance at the Civic Hall is probably the last Bumblies appearance, so we're really going to change. Kind of following the way it went last time, because we've been around a couple of years this time, so it seems to be the thing to do. A lot of people still remember the Please Stay record. It's just one of those. It's just one of those songs. I think it's to do with weddings, funerals.
It was on in Ulster.
It was done by somebody. That's the sound of the Crying Shames, and I forgot what it's called again.
What's News, Pussycat?
What's News, Pussycat? Yes.
There's a story behind that song.
The story behind that. Go on,
George told me.
This is Dave from the Crying Shames, right now. Yes, on the programme tonight.
George Robinson, who is credited with writing the song, freely admits he got some of the ideas from Bob Dylan. I think it was Bob Dylan.
It was.
And the royalties on that now are actually shared between George and Bob Dylan. So
yeah.
So it's very similar to. I can't remember which Bob Dylan song it was.
Yeah. Royalties.
Yeah.
The last royalties I had was in 1971. You know what? Somebody asked me the other day. I can't, for the life of me, I don't know where all the money's gone since then.
It'd been better if it was on another Bob Dylan song for George's sake to be sharing.
Yeah, it would have been
really. Yeah.
But, I like that song.
Yeah, it's good. I like it. Yeah.
And it's probably closer to the sound that I remember because even though I'd got out the band, I used to go and watch them.
Yeah.
And You know, they were a tremendous rhythm and blues band.
Yeah.
Very much the second wave of Merseybeat.
But it was a mix though, wasn't it, Dave? If you recall, the one thing I enjoyed about playing with the Crying Shames over those years was the fact that there was so much variety in the band. Because you had Joey Neen, who was very much in the ilk of, you know, the Pretty Things, you know, Rolling Stone type, and then you had Charlie Crane, who was just fantastic, and he was, you know, your Small Faces type, and we gave the audience a good variety, a good selection of numbers when we did a gig. You know, it went down well, and we covered you know, a wide spectrum of tastes.
I think it's fair to say that you were the most popular band in Liverpool at that time.
Well, I think Please Stay actually, and I might be wrong because my memory is whatever it is, but because I can't remember that either. But I think it was Please Stay was 15 weeks, sorry, number one in the charts for about 15 weeks at Nems and what have you. In Liverpool, yeah.
Rather differently though from most of the Merseyside bands, you went on to be recorded with Joe Meek, didn't you, rather than...
That's right, yeah. Well, Joe did everything for us. Joe was our recording manager, plus he marketed the records for us as well, Phil. We finished the gig at the Oral Park Ballroom one night, and this is a true story, one of the few that I can remember, and George knew Joe, knew of him, and so we all got dropped off in the old Bedford van to pick up some gear from home, and then we all travelled straight down to London. And then the following day we went in to see Joe, and the second time we went round, he chased us the first time. We went back in the afternoon, and he gave us a listening to, and we came away with a recording contract. Seriously, it was that simple.
Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah, great.
We came back that night, we played Birkenhead, and I don't think we'd ever played better. Everybody was so elated. And then we went back down to London a few weeks later and recorded Please Stay.
Because Joe Meek's quite iconic, isn't he?
He was, yeah.
Yeah.
The rock and roll sort of, the British rock and roll story.
Well, the film of his life came out last
quite
year,
recently, didn't it? Yeah.
But, and again, talking to George about that, he was quite cut up because they used Please Stay as the theme tune in the film, but they had it recorded by Duffy.
You're right. Yeah.
And hey, she's a great singer. You know, don't take it away from her. But I really think that the Crying Shames version would have done it just as much justice, you know.
They actually used the Crying Shames version at the end of a video about Joe's life that they'd put out on the TV a few years ago.
Yeah.
And
was any mention of the Crying Shames made in the film? I've not seen the film.
I'm not sure because I've only seen the rushes of the film.
Yeah.
But really, it was focused not so much on. I know Hines was featured in it.
Yeah, because he was a big Joe Meek sort of
blonde
thing. Yeah, from Tornadoes, wasn't he?
And John, was it John Layton? Was it?
Yeah, they were mostly London.
Me,
That's the thing, they were mostly London acts, weren't they, that Joe Meek handled, and that's why it was so unusual for a Liverpool band to.
But there is a Joe Meek Appreciation Society.
Yeah, yeah.
And they put on half a dozen shows a year. And I think John Layton still
does play. Yeah,
you know, he's a good actor.
Yeah.
Joe was good for the Crying Shames, for the Bumblies. He was great.
Yeah.
Where we failed really was through bad management.
Yeah.
You know, we never got the television we were promised from Capable. We never got the radio coverage we were promised from Capable. And at the end of the day, we turned down an offer from Epi, didn't we?
Tell Phil about the Epis.